What's the most real relationship advice you can give? It's fine to not always want to spend 100% of your time with your spouse. Not every moment of every day is going to be bliss, and sometimes it really takes some effort. I love my wife to bits, but there are some days when I would just like to do things by myself. It doesn't mean our relationship isn't great, but it can be really refreshing to just take a stroll around a shopping center or go and get some food alone or something. This 100%. My spouse goes weekly to a Pathfinder game. That's his alone time. I occasionally go to a punk show or have a beer with my friends. It can be even simpler. I will go read a book in the other room and get my alone time. He likes to cook, so he'll start up in the kitchen and I stay away while he listens to his music. Everyone needs alone time. Don't lose yourself as an individual in a relationship. Happened to me. Where were you 10 years ago? But would we have listened 10 years ago? Intimacy is way more important than most people realize. Like I've told my wife, yeah sure, there's lust involved. There's also interest in making your partner feel good as well. If that interest isn't there, your partner might as well be a sex toy for all they mean to you. Go on holiday together if you can agree on food, sleep soundly, compromise on activities, and do your own thing one of the days, and not get mad at each other. You stand a good chance of lasting a while. I love my boyfriend to bits and miss him a lot. We don't live together yet, but boy do I like sleeping on my own in bed sometimes. Space is healthy. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you have to live in each other's pockets. When you disagree, remember that you're on the same team. You're supposed to fight a problem, not the other person. Don't expect the other person to be able to read your mind. Be a team, not opponents. Everybody farts at some point. Communication is the foundation upon which everything else is built. They say don't go to bed angry, not because anger does something while you're sleeping, but because it means you didn't communicate properly and you're giving up on trying. Be calm, actively listen. Do not dismiss your partner's statements. Assume good faith. It's you and me versus the problem, not me versus you. If something's bugging you, talk to your SU about it. If you feel enraged about something, wait until you're well fed, well rested, with warm extremities, before talking about it, but talk about it at the first opportunity. Calmly, rationally, and honestly. Keep the discussion limited to that one narrow thing. If something's bugging your SU, hear them out. Never think, well, I'm not bothered by that, so it's not a problem. Think, my SU is bothered by this, and that's a problem. If you think the concern is unreasonable, frame the discussion as solving the problem of your SU is being unhappy. The worst fights and arguments happen over trivial things, because it's not the trivial thing that's actually causing the problem. It's probably a series of things, or a general lack of satisfaction, and the toothpaste cap being left off is just the instigator of the fight. If you communicate often and openly, these things will not fester, they won't pile up, and you won't get into such fights. You have to be honest with them, especially when it's hard to do. Me and my boyfriend get uncomfortably real with each other sometimes, and something we have both learned is to listen to criticism without getting defensive. And when giving criticism, we don't attack each other, no matter how angry or sad we are at each other. I've had him call me out for certain behaviors that nobody has ever called me out on, and I've done the same for him. We are both better people for it, because when we get it all out on the table, we have no choice but to work on ourselves. Your spouse isn't going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. There will be mistakes and misunderstandings. What really matters in a relationship is not being perfect, but how you handle the imperfections of yourself and your spouse in a respectful, reasonable way. Learning how to be bored together is important. You don't have to be on the go, doing stuff and planning stuff, and being fun and exciting all the time. It's okay to just sit around and not do anything, and not talk to each other. It's not unhealthy, I promise. This was one of the biggest things I learned when I moved in with my SU, and what I give as advice to couples just moving in, especially when it's their first time living with, and so you have to learn how to be in the same room without actively hanging out together. When your whole relationship has been dates, it's hard to just be without feeling like you should be interacting. Getting comfortable just chilling there doing your own thing is a good thing. There's a reason it's called the honeymoon phase, and eventually you won't have as much to talk about other than how the day went, or might not always feel those butterflies in your stomach when you think about them. That's when it becomes a test in the relationship and you both have to work on it to make it work. You will get into fights, but learn to get over them, or I doubt it'll last. Resentment can kill feelings for someone. Edit. I wanted to add, I'm not a love/relationship expert by any means, I'm just going off of things I've seen and gone through with my own husband, so RIP my inbox. I also wanted to say thank you for my first ever silver and first ever gold. That was unexpected, and I really appreciate it. In an ideal relationship, the contributions are 60-40, where both partners are the one trying to give 60%. My mom asked an elderly couple who had been married for decades what their secret was. They said that they act as if being nice to each other is a competition. That has always stuck with me. Sometimes you have to spend years with shitty people to realize what you deserve. It was never a waste, you needed the experience to figure out what works best for you, or what to avoid. You'll never forget your exes, they were there for a reason. Conversely, sometimes you need to spend years in bad relationships with good people before you realize that you're being a shitty person. Sometimes it's hard to see, and harder to admit. Guy here. This probably sounds simple, but here's what I've learned. Know yourself, where you're at in life. If you're in a shitstorm, legal shit, money shit, drugs, and alcohol shit, legal shit, you're probably not ready for anything serious. Clean up your act first. Be honest. No matter how fucked up shit is, if you want to move forward in a serious way, all the cards got to be on the table. Take it slow. Get to know each other, but in the end no secrets. There is some shit that is nobody's business, but I ain't talking about that. Know her, what she's been through, and what she wants out of life. You both need to be pretty much on board. You need to be heading for the same thing. Kids, buy a house or gypsy life, don't matter. Keep a sharp eye on things. You need to make sure she's doing okay, and let her know you're doing okay. Same with her to you. After that it's just dodging stupid. Always be mindful and thoughtful to that person's "love map. Like they might need a quick text every morning. When you get to work, letting them know you're safe makes zero sense to you, but knowing it's something small and means the world to them, well, why the hell not? They might get stressed out, and you helping to clean the house when they finished work might mean more to them than someone else you've been with who wanted flowers to show love. Know what it is that your partner loves and makes them feel loved too. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. If they are mean, if they are vindictive, if they use you, if they show you that they don't really care about you, believe them. If they make you feel inadequate, on edge, scared, nervous, unworthy, or like a disappointment, believe them. If they are entitled, narcissistic, sociopathic, manipulative, or unfair, believe them. Life isn't a movie. You can't fix people who don't want to be fixed. More often than not, they just are who they are. So take off the rose-colored glasses and stop thinking love will find a way. If it isn't working, change it. Don't spend your precious time lamenting over a person who wouldn't genuinely lament over you. This sounds bleak, I know, but relationships and love are supposed to be the most beautiful thing in the universe. If your relationship is not improving your quality of life on the aggregate, you need to seriously reassess what you want in life, because you deserve better. You only get so much time to find people in your life that make it worth living. Don't get caught up on people who will make you wish you never lived it. Probably not gonna get this right, but it hit me the hardest after spending 5 years in a toxic relationship. The idea that everyone in their lives is working towards creating a jigsaw, each part of their life, be it work, relationships, or hobbies make up parts of the jigsaw. Everyone's is different. Some people's careers make up the edges, the less important and interesting parts. Some people's are their relationships. What's important is the center of the puzzle. That's what people are working towards. Their lives goals. When you're in a relationship, your puzzles combine. You eventually start working towards a shared goal. You might make some compromises on what goes to the outer edges, but you should both be working towards the same center. Occasionally, it turns out that the centerpiece you were working towards with your sew isn't what you thought it was. This sucks, and believe me, it really fucking does. But there's nothing wrong with cutting your losers. If you're going for a different jigsaw, and the pieces don't fit, you won't get a coherent picture. I hope I explained it right. And yes, it has been taken from Daniel Sloss. He puts it way better than I do, so I would recommend checking him out on Netflix. If you go into a marriage/long-term commitment with the impression that you'll be happy all the time and your life will only change for the better, you are absolutely wrong. Be realistic that there will be days you won't be able to stand each other. Your lives may absolutely hit rough patches and you will not agree on how or why that situation occurred, or even how to get out of it, and the like. Came here to say this. And when you have kids it tends to get even more difficult and adds even more fights and resentments. Life changes, and so do relationships. The butterflies and weak knees only last so long, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing, it's just different. Don't just look for the person who makes your heart race, look for someone you can also see being friends with. Because in the end that's what you become, best friends. Friends fight, but best friends always/usually find a way to work through it together. Oh, and it's also my experience that having one shared hobby and one independent hobby helps too. My husband and I game together, but if I need a break from him or vice versa, I'll go read a book and he will watch sports or whatever. Thanks for watching the freshest content from r/AskReddit. Be sure to return to see more and sub PLS.